In the shadows we rise, hearts of the strong, fighting for what's ours, where we belong. Every tear that's every tear that we've shed fuels the fire inside. Together we stand, we've ever lost, we mourn, we will reclaim. The harder they fall, we standing tall. The seed up beside us, united we call. May Mother protect those in darkness tonight. One day they'll rise, guided by the light. Through the struggle and pain, our voices won't fade. From the ashes we build, foundations are laid. We'll echo their names in the winds of the fight. Under stars we remember, our dreams will ignite. With hope as our banner we march on through. The harder they fall, we standing tall. The seed up beside us, united we call. May Mother protect those in darkness tonight. One day they'll rise, guided by the light. Together we rise, as the echoes will fade. The strength of our spirits is the world we've made.
Maybe I might miss the point, yeah. Bit by bit, we're slowly tearing away. And a big, big to you. And I forget to say thank you for subscribing. And we welcome you to listen. Everyone of every race, of every kind. It's free. It's for you. And as Maria was just saying a few minutes ago, we, like she teaches in the school back home on Venus, yes, that's one of the foundational things we got going on. Is we have way before, matter of fact, the first time Maria Orsic ever spoke to me was 13 months before I found out she was Maria Orsic. And she told me she was the Missouri River Goddess and that she lives on Venus. Not in this dimension, because this dimension actually wasn't a dimension, didn't even exist, was computer technology from the very beginning. She told me that way. I used to put at the end of all my text, seek the goddess, because she talked a lot about being a river goddess and what that meant. And I realized there were some really beautiful, great rivers in America, and no one seemed to worship, or, she don't like that word, we don't like that word. No one seemed to recognize the beautiful goddess behind the water, And how Christian is it to call the deepest water source, the largest fresh water source on earth? And that's in Missouri. That is Missouri. Missouri. Because what is Rhea? A river goddess, right? Oh, you believe in the Greek myths. Man, come on. This is what we're fighting. This is why Maria said I hated to have the opening salvo a nightmare. It's like the opening nightmares. The curtain opens to absolute creep show, false reptilian insectoid alien shit that they're so proud of because why? They made it up. It don't exist. It only exists in the laboratories of the fucked up motherfuckers that would do that. I was explaining earlier how Maria, a long time ago, explained to me how Lou explained to her how she got where she was on Earth in Vienna, Austria, 1922. And that the giants was a whole humankind before what she knew, and that no one really knew history, and the rich and powerful had done, censored and redacted everything into a perfect little plan to control people. And this is the actual truth, if you want to know. I believe Aleister Crowley was born in 1865, so he's 30 years older than Maria. This is no lie. He was taught as a child evangelical Christianity that we would know today in America, like born again, saved, Jesus is returning, the whole thing. Bible only, blah, blah, blah. By the turn of the century, like Maria said, Joe, 1999, party like it's 1999, was really, truly 1899. Because we were getting electricity everywhere and technology exploded like you'll never know. Like you'll never experience, because you're experiencing a weak-ass replica. But the real truth is the technology, like she said, just in the printing press and people being able to print books for cheap, and people, like she said, Joe, everyone knew each other. She said, I knew every single person I went to school with. Since I was a child, every single person in the school, not just my grade, because our parents had the mentality of like, if we're not together, we'll die. That this is what a race means, that you'll lose the race and die. She said, the talk about racial superiority only entered the question because, like she said, this is the big part people are missing. Because the Bible had lost all its power. By 1899, like she said, in your language, Joe, you were the biggest fucking dork if you were carrying a Bible around and telling people they're sinning by enjoying themselves. Like she said, by the time I turned a teenager, she said when I was 12-year-old kids had common conversations saying, why did people ever believe that these myths were real? These come from the Sumerian tablets, and these come, like she said, they taught this in our school because Christianity was so uncool, so old and restrictive. Like she said, Christianity equaled anti-fun. She said, as a 20-year-old girl in 1815, she said, let me tell you, Joe, Christianity had flipped from 80% Christian in Austria to 20% Christian, because every new kid of the born after 1900 was growing up in a generation that was like, all of that is a myth. She said the general vibration in my school was, you're backwards country dumb bumpkin if you believe in Jesus and a God that would kill his own son. We believe in the gods. She said, as like teenagers in what you would call middle school, we were commonly, she said it just was a whole thing of like, don't dress like a Christian, don't talk like a Christian, because it's boring, it's not cool. She said, you're missing this reality though of like, how did this come back into ending the world? She told me this whole story. And back then she used to say to me, pay attention, Joe. Quit laughing. I would be like, then quit making me laugh. And pay attention, because one day you're going to have to remember this. And I'd say, you're going to help me remember. And she would be like, I'm just joking. Okay, now listen. She said, I'm going to explain to you the beast and why he calls himself the beast. Because literally, the world changed from we're sinners and we need the Bible and we need to repent to we need to find the spiritual power of our ancestors in the highest regard, the resurrection of the dead. She said there were people talking about science proves that energy and the observer effect could actually probably bring someone back to life. She said this is the kind of shit we talked about when I was a freshman in high school. I said, I've always told people, we're not evolving. We are actual brain damage. We are an entire generation of retarded people who think they're not, who look at other people who are more damaged than them and go, yeah, poor them. Look at them. Look at them, not being able to hang in, regular high school. And this is how it happened. This is how the blank American evangelical TV evangelist, religion, television nation was born. This is how it was born. This was the plan. This is how it happened. As Maria, she said, I want you to say that. She said, I think as you guys talk, right, and the way you people talk in America in 2025, you would say, when all this anti-Christian renaissance, revolution was taking place, Aleister Crowley had to be, like she said, and this is your phrase, that guy. He is, was, and will always be that guy. And he became that guy for one reason. He knew that Maria Orsic had become the observer of his teachings and the critic of his teachings, pointing out that he's an actual clown, like Joel Osteen or any other billionaire TV evangelist preacher. She said, I was pointing out he was the occult commercial bullshit and that we were the real thing. We were from the land, the water, the air, the vril. And she said our first newsletter in our language said that Aleister Crowley, the way he treats women, she said, I'm a vegetarian and a lover of animals, and I will tell you the truth. The way Aleister Crowley truly speaks about women in his books and in his teachings, I would rather marry a actual pig than be with him. And she said, I wrote a whole paragraph about every criticism I had of his physical body, and that only psychopathic women that end up in psychiatric wards would dare be with him or marry him. Because she said, I was setting the paradigm. She said, I already fought the paradigm of where Aleister Crowley came from. Evangelical Christianity. His father was like equivalent to a TV preacher. You know, you need to give because Jesus is coming back at any moment. You have to be saved and blah, blah, blah. So listen to this. She said, this is why he hated me so much. She said, if you study Crowley closely, he's using the same blueprint that they used in his father's church for ripping people off of their money, stringing them along, you know, week by week, book by book, saying, you know, make sure you stick with us and buy the next one. She said, because even, like she said, even if it was just 1% of the intent, and she said, remember the context was this was someone who did not need any money. He inherited, when his mother died, what would be the equivalent of $1 billion. And never worked a single day of his life as a normal person, because you're the Goyim, he's the British Israelite. And here's how he became that. She said one of my titles was Crowleyanity is Christianity because Aleister Crowley is a hoax. Like Christianity. And she explained, he's the beast to bring you back in to the blueprint that his own father used to suck the money out of his congregation. Like, no one understands that a truly intelligent spiritual person knows these things are sacred, would never charge money, let alone set up what is in those days was known as one of the most powerful businesses, a church, a synagogue, a mosque. It's a business. Because like Maria said, wisdom can be found anywhere, literally anywhere. Know yourself is the mystery. She told me, as we fought in the newsletters, he would release a book, and I would commentate in each newsletter something, or secretly purposely but secretly communicate things to him like, you're attacking me, you're going to suffer because you have no idea who's protecting me. You have no idea who has sent me. Why do you think I speak this way out of arrogance? You know, she said I would carry on this dialogue back and forth with Crowley and basically take down everything that he would say. Like, I would, like she said, why is he the beast? Because no one gives a fuck about the Bible. She said, I wrote a newsletter and said, don't let Aleister Crowley trick you back into the Bible. She said because, of course, the party culture of the early 20th century, she said, of course, there was a Christian backlash, you know, of like, they're going to hell, everyone's going to hell, everyone that ever fucked is going to hell. You know, you better come back to the church, only we can marry people. And just the whole, like she said, the whole nightmare would not die, but it lost all its power. And she said, I can tell you, I was 20 years old to 30 years old, right in that crucial time where Aleister Crowley became the most famous occultist. And like she said, 90% of the people at first criticized me and sided with him. And only 10% of the people she said I would have people in my dance studio walk in and say, how dare you talk about Aleister Crowley? He's a great sage. He's a da-da-da-da. And I can hear her saying, you know me, you know what I would say. Anyone that would kill a cat for no reason deserves to die. She said, I one time told this old man who came in saying, Aleister Crowley is the Messiah, a Jewish old man. She said, I got very fiery, angry. And I told him, I know the Chancellor of Germany. I know Adolf Hitler. I can talk to him myself. And she said, what you do, the torture and pain you bring to animals, and this whole thing, I would recommend him that anyone that treated an animal like Aleister Crowley does, sacrificing cats, should be given the death penalty. She said, like, I actually felt that in my heart. Told this man. And he said, see, you're the crazy one. And she said, I wrote this whole story in the next newsletter. That they want to defend animal sacrifice. Like she said, I said to the guy, I'm a fucking vegetarian. How do you expect a normal vegetarian to react to a spoiled rich kid who is nothing but a con artist writing in a book that his magic started by murdering a cat, by torturing and killing a cat? Which that's interesting because this is like the third time this has come up. So check this out, a little side road. What are cats and dogs? I was talking about this earlier. And this is what Maria told me a long time ago. She said when the human race was restarted, and I'm not kidding, 1,000 times this happened. And still to this day, the other day, she predicted, like, at least 3 or 4 songs in a row on the random shuffle of the iPod in the funniest ways. And I was like, damn, okay, that's 3 times. You gonna do it again? In the funniest ways, like a hint about the next song, you know? Because what is life? A dance. You're dancing. Just remember that. The dance of death is fine. We have to know that. And, you know, cats and dogs. Why are they created by the giants? And the deception that Aleister Crowley has put over people, and why he sacrificed a cat, is because the giants completely understood the weakness of the smaller man, felt guilty, and understood scientifically there is no such thing as unconditional love. Because human beings are energy, and everything is energy, and your true self is like in an automatic balance calibration. You know, it calibrates to a balance, and that's the most important thing. So knowing that just everything is energy, there's no unconditional love individual to individual. That's why amor is love without death, not unconditional love without death, because it is a equalizing balance that literally makes mathematical sense that it could last for eternity. Like she said, like she said in the beginning, don't put your opinion before the facts. And the facts are that it's very, 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 very rare to two people to really love each other without death. Scientifically, like she said, it's a whole nother thing for people to make up shit and say anything. And she said, that's why I've told you from the very beginning, do not let them speak. You're responsible for letting them speak. Once I told you, don't listen, don't let them speak. And I said, who? And she said, the people are right in your face saying they're your enemies. You might be like who? Like Blavatsky, the Kabbalist, because Kabbalah is evil. Hurting children is evil. Everyone agrees. And all the rest of the Masonic bullshit, you know, and this is the implementation of what we're talking about, of Aleister Crowley creating the beast to bring the Bible back into the focus, to then later, in the end, turn it on his own father. This is all mythological symbolism. To turn it on his own father, and instead of the father sacrificing the son sacrifices the father, evangelical Christianity. And the second beast, you know, destroys the people of the first beast, because the first beast was Christianity. You know, on a metaphoric level. But like she said, on a personal level, it was me and him that was fighting. And it was me that was the thorn in his side saying, fuck you, you and your Bible are total bullshit. Yahweh don't exist any more than Zeus or Thor or Odin. Stop telling us what to believe. Suck a fucking dick, you fat, old, ugly piece of shit. She said that was my message at least 200 months in a row. And in my letter saying, I have the ear of Chancellor Adolf Hitler, and believe if you step in Germany, you'll be thrown in a dungeon forever, you pedophile. She said, I published in my newsletter his poetry about molesting children. And she said in a article properly titled, I am the virgin mistress of Lucifer, the daughter of Austria. And she said in the article, I said I would never ever dream that I would say this in public and give it away for free. But this is my mission, to spread the knowledge. But I'm a virgin who has never had sex with a man. So all the rumors you heard about me being Hitler's whore or the prostitute of the SS, and I'm a talentless whore that wants to be a movie star. She said, I wrote this article, I am the Virgin Mary. And I keep myself pure and clean from the energy of all men on earth, because I am the wife of Lord Shiva and his wife. I am their princess, wife, daughter, mother of both of them, because we're one. And that's what, and like she said, believe it, Joe, this actually got under his skin. She said every book he would publish, I would publish like 12 newsletters in the next 12 months, saying all he's trying to do is bring you back to the Bible, right? The book of the law, what's it talk about? Oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus is on the cross. Yeah, why? Because you want us to come back to that paradigm. And like she said, what did the beast create? What is this false image in the book of Revelation? Maria Orsic said, Aleister Crowley, the Golden Dawn, the OTO, their think tank created the atheist movement to validate the Bible, to bring the Bible back into the focus of academics. So if you believed in God, assumption, the Bible God. And like she said, before the 1940s, 90% of Germany was like, shut the fuck up. We know what the Bible is. We have a library now. You think that I can't recognize the similarities between Homer's Odyssey and the Bible and Noah and the flood and the Epic of Gilgamesh and your own people? Tell us they don't know where the fuck the original manuscripts are, but here's a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. I swear you have to take my opinion. It's just like the original, because we have a tiny scrap of 4 words of the original. We have the Dead Sea Scrolls, and they're dead because they're fake. And the only real revelation was a secret revelation right in your face, that what is the New Testament? It's mushroom, psychedelic mushroom, plant medicine, mythology. The mythology of the plants living and dying perfect lives to heal you in the most basic sense. It's a multi-meaning story. And like she said, at the highest level of appeal to the unconscious is your true self, is Father God, which in the Bible has no worries, no fears, no nothing. He's completely sovereign, rules everything. That's you over you. And you have created you and sent yourself into a simulated physical world. Just as the Bible says, Jesus was the Father become flesh. That's the true self, become the avatar in the simulation. And actually, if you can follow me, it's a little one step deeper than that. because that's the reality on Venus, that when that technology enabled a human being to contact another human being on what we would call the spirit plane and say, do you want to become a physical person on our in our community, on our city, in our civilization on Venus? We continue the physical civilization, and if the earth wouldn't have been destroyed, you would have been born from a natural birth. Do you want to come and live? Our technology has deleted all the complications, and there's no sickness, you come at a specific time, and I'm the one sent here to tell you. She showed me this whole thing of how she approached me long ago. I said, how long ago was this? She was like, long ago. I was like, thousands? She's like, maybe more. Millions? She was like, maybe. She said, Joe, I am not telling you. Or I am telling you the truth. Time, once things level out, you cannot distinguish time. Because if you go into a meditation and do not watch the Venusian sun go up and down, you have no idea if it's not the same day. And it could be 5 years later. She said, this is what people brag about. I was in a meditation for 5 years, didn't even know it. She said, you want to see an explosion of shamanism? You're about to watch it. The golden age is golden, with people knowing themselves through plant medicine, as people call it. We just say magic. Magic plants. They're magic. Like in I said dumbed down culture, but like she said, no one's going to take our words. No one has the right to the English language, especially these English. So the dog and the cat, and the reason why Aleister Crowley starts with, I started gaining my power of knowing myself by sacrificing I think he said a neighborhood cat. Right? Why? Because when the little man was created by the giants to carry on the physical human being, the giants genetically modified some mushrooms so that they would be easily accessible, so other worlds would be easily accessible, and they genetically modified some plants to make them easier to grow, like marijuana and other psychedelic plants in MOA inhibitors that allow other worlds to be accessed by inhibiting the enzyme that would normally destroy the DMT molecule from other plants. And if you don't think that something, blank, 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 beyond our knowledge, beyond everything, is behind nature, then you don't, like Maria would say, what world are you living in? Why don't you know these plants? Why don't you get to know them? What scares you? What gives you fear? There's 99% of magic plants are legal, totally legal. Passion flower, Syrian root can be used as MOA inhibitors, if I'm saying it right, MOA. And believe me, I know what it is because I did it hundreds of times. You could take capsules or make a tea, and you drink that like 15 minutes before your magic tea. And it is a whole other thing because those plants are very magic and you start to realize all people are magic, all plants are magic. It's just, whose side are you on? I mean, my sister Mindy was here and just saying, like, I don't care what the fuck you say. What about Gaza? What about burning children alive? You think, how the fuck can you talk about anything else? How can you talk the big, beautiful bill? What about the people in Gaza? They're being burned alive. Well, and what we're just emphasizing is your hatred for people, for their religion. You think that these people are who these liars say they are, and they just aren't, as Maria would say. Like Maria said, they would already have me locked up because I wouldn't be able to shut my mouth, and I wouldn't have a family, so I would have more time than you, Joe. And she said, shut me up about what? Genocide. About force and fraud, about using that. But the dog and the cat, the giant gods who created the smaller man understood scientifically that there's no such thing as unconditional love that the myths talk about and the Bible talks about. So, vibrationally, they had been in union, communicating with animals for a long time, and like Lou said, most giants never ate meat their entire life, never ate the flesh of a dead animal. He said they probably ate eggs of, birds, but never their whole entire life from the very, very get-go. And he said, you just can't imagine the relationships in our world. Like he said, people had at the most 3 kids. He said, I never knew anyone that had more than 3 kids except for the royal families, which had 5, 6, even they had 9 kids. Because like Lou told me, his rationality was kicking in and saying everything's being wasted. You're saying we can't have more people while all this food goes wasted constantly because fear. See, on other levels, everything is metaphysical. Like, what's the enemy? Fear. Where's the enemy where's the fear coming from? The real enemy. And that's how you use the ritual to go back deeper, back. Because it's all about trajectory and the observer effect. If someone is observing you and throwing you off, the longer you travel, the further you get off. So what would be the answer? Stop, remember where you began, and go back. Recover the power that you lost. Like she said, it's all very simple. But the hidden history, the hidden data that she's talking about is so very important. And this, for people who love dogs and cats, the giants understood that they could create a animal that sort of related to other animals that would give the smaller man. They seen the population explosion, and they feared it, and out of their pity, like Lou said, this is when they were still nice and still good, Right before the smaller man repopulated the earth, the giants genetically modified. Like Maria told me, the cat is a very delicate genetic modification of, she said bird names, but it's basically almost like, I want to almost say a swan, more like a longer necked bird, but not big. But anyway, a bird a snake and a fox, along with all the genetics of what the whole cat species of lion, tiger, panther, everything, all into one, because they had already AI projected out that this would be the closest companion vibrationally to men and women of the smaller humankind. That would be the closest thing to unconditional love. And in fact, like Maria said, all these experiments were done to make sure that, and she's like, if you knew these people, you would know this, or you would remember this. But all this was done to make sure that these new animals, the dog and the cat, and she told me about the dog too, it was like a wolf, something else, I don't know. I more remembered the cat because I have cats, and I was seeing it. And what's crazy is, after she told me this is, and I'll go back to the dog, but after I swear to the gods, she was telling me this, and I was like fascinated because I was seeing it, and I was just seeing like how fucking extremely different my cats were towards me than any other animals. I mean, just completely, totally, like I was taking, doing these very intense rituals and seeing how they seen me through their eyes, and I was just like super cat to them. They were like, God damn, how's he walk like that? He just walks on 2 feet all the time. He's like, and he gets into big metal animal. They just look at me as like a god, They're like, holy shit, we never seen a cat like you. And they see other people as people. You know what I mean? Like in their eyes, I'm like the chosen one. They're like, he's a cat like us, just wild. Drives that crazy thing, does it. They think that I leave the house and go hunting, and get all the food that they eat. They think that, and basically it's true. But what's crazy is I seen through their eyes how they see other human beings as dangerous, but also if I like them, they're very relaxed with them. They're like, oh, okay, as long as Super Cat says it's all right. But it's almost like we're all cats and humans are aliens to the cats. Humans are like weird beings. Like, what the fuck are you? Why do you do the things you do? They're looking at it as destructive through the cat's eyes of like, oh, you're one of these crazy animals that might just do something crazy. Like they know what a dog will do. They know what a squirrel will do. They know, and the squirrel knows what the cat will do. But my cats look at humans like, what are you? They look at humans like psychopathic serial killers and shit. Like, what kind of vibration is that? Because she also told me, like, this is what Maria told me. This is a natural law of energy. It could be proven, if you want. But basically, in the true family structure, the mother is reflected in the children, and the father is reflected in the animals of the family. And she said until, the animals die or the children, break free of their mother and marry, they will reflect it very, to almost like an almost oppressive level. It can become oppressive, where the mother, or it's really a mother with the family, but it could be the father with the animals, is starting to devour the energy of the sons and daughters by trying to persuade them to replicate her life. But like Maria said, only a goddess has the authority to use magic and can make it magic to repeat or replicate her life or what she did in her life. You know, she said this is in the unconscious of every mother, and a temptation, you know, to want to really live through like, that's my son or that's my daughter. I'm so proud. I'm so, you know, and how this can devour the inside of the child and is evil. She said, you're watching a real mother raise a real child. So basically, in plain English, Aleister Crowley's intent in killing the neighbor's cat and sacrificing the neighbor's cat was to bring back what everyone hated, and this was his like original rebellion in like the late 19-teens, 1918, 1917, the Communist Revolution. Crowley was coming out with books basically saying, I'm bringing back God is Satan, and I am the prophet of this new Yahweh world order. And, you know, basically saying, I'm the rebel. Basically saying, yeah, everyone jumped on the occult bandwagon. Well, check this out. I'm the beast. And he also said in the same book that he was a Muslim and that he believed in Allah and that Allah was Yahweh. Right? And like she said, technically he's right. But he's leaving out the very most important information because he wants to right, do away with what he thought was a false renaissance, a false revolution that threw out the Bible and present it to the banking world order, Zionism, with Theodore Herzl. And he presented to him the new paradigm will get rid of all this pagan that's so popular with everyone. No one wants to go to church anymore. No one wants to give money. He said the way that we're going to do this is we are going to infiltrate the universities with a new, brand new, newer than the pagan revival, newer than that, the atheist movement that can, and their foundational 10 commandments will be, we only believe science, we only believe the microscope, we only believe what can actually physically be proven, and we are not spiritual, is their message. But it's like it's completely fake and created. There were no people like that in the 19-teens, the late 19-teens. They had to create this. They had to create this whole momentum of hold it. The Bible is real. Yahweh is the demiurge. And the whole revelation is that he's good and bad. That God of this world is Satan too. God is Satan. And he kept saying, from that combination, you get 666, and I am the creator of all this, the beast. Which was also a simple play on words to get you, every time you say it, to say he's the best. And it was, like she said, it was back to just a simple fight of me saying, I'm more powerful than you, old man. In my newsletters, I prove you ain't nothing but a thin, layered hoax that Okay, maybe you once paid the price, but now you want everyone else to pay you 10 times the monetary price. And I said over and over, what the Vril girls do, we do for free because we enjoy it. She said, I'll get pretty, in your words, steamy in the newsletters. And I would always say, remember, Aleister Crowley, when I met you, what I said, you wish you could watch. That's all. That's all it is. You can't. Remote view this. That's what she said. So, okay, what they say that sin cuts you off from God is why Aleister Crowley sacrificed a cat. It was in a symbol of cutting you off from the only unconditional love you really have, your pets, and trying to put on you the misery of you'll never see them again. People are like, really? Yeah, it's that deep of this beast taking everything from you. How does he take everything from you? By creating the atheist paradigm. The atheist paradigm of either you're a Christian, Muslim, or a Jew. That's dumb. Or you believe in science, which says you're just a goddamn grain of sand animal like any other animal walking around in the forest. You're going to live, die, gone, you're gone forever. And the absolute full knowledge of the magician, Aleister Crowley, of saying, hey, listen, Maria Orsic, this is my art project. Why are you taking it literal? And her saying back, people's lives and happiness are not your art project. She said, do what you do after you die and know that you're going to die. But neither I or anyone else are toys here for your enjoyment. She said, even in the name of your own wife, I condemn you. You know, even people who willingly slept with you, I defend, because we're not used to someone so evil. The world's, like she said, you tell me, Mr. Computer Crowley, Crowface, the computer virtual reality. Crowface, you tell me, how many per capita in major cities, suburb, whole thing that people live in today, how many people are true psychopaths that are like turned on by violence? And he said, consciously or subconsciously? And she said, well, let me hear both. And he said, every man who needs to watch any sort of violent sports is definitely compensating for a lack of what you would call vril, drive to perform at the orgasmic level. And as a descending scale down, it would prove who would be willing for someone else to die for them to live. And she said, that's the essence of Christianity. The principle that, what? I'll take that deal, someone else dying for me. And like she said, at that heart, Joe, at the heart of that, is that not gross? Is that not the bad selfishness, the gross selfishness that people are tricked in. And she said, you have to give it to Crowley, though. It's one of the greatest tricks on the masses to get them to confess of, like, if someone had guns to your family and your neighbor's family and they said, it's up to you who dies and who lives. Like she said, this is a reality that has happened in a nightmare that ricochets and echoes through the great wars, all the wars. And she said, imagine the arrogance of wishing it on people far away in another land because someone else said so. And the image of the predestination of God, that this is all prophecy, is juxtaposed in a false manner created by sacrificing the true unconditional love that was given to you by the real gods. Okay, do you see the sever of connection? The real gods gave you your closest pets to symbolically communicate to them, like, if there ever was unconditional love, like, we're trying to give it to you by genetically modifying this animal that really has a soul and really does love you. And instead of giving thanks, right, for that, a whole different world, by sacrificing someone's pet that they love, just a normal, family's house cat. This is what he said in his books. Research it. Listen. He said he was sacrificing that connection of unconditional love. Like a mother's love for her baby, of saying, I don't care. I carry this baby in my stomach. I love this baby, and I'm going to feed it, make sure it's healthy. All that was being sacrificed in replace of, we have to defend the faith, the Bible, the Creator, against the atheist. And every atheist completely fuels it all by just dismissing all our ancestors and everything by saying it was all mythology, and a lack of understanding what mythology is. Like, check this out. How can you go in yourself and be like, I have no connection to my ancestors in my blood, like in my DNA? An atheist feels just completely disconnected and alone, and like Maria said, sure sounds like they need to do this ritual. Sure sounds like they need to visit the world of the mushroom, which is unexplainable, like your true self. And is that what the beast is? The image of the beast is his false polar opposite, the atheist. Right? 666, the beast. He's like, I'm from the fucking Bible. The Bible is true. That I am the, calculate his number, and they shall have this number on their forehead, and this is the number 666. Smart people out there, yeah? In this day and age. Could it be someone else? We're saying that for real, sarcastically. Do you think there's someone else who's the beast? Have you not researched all of popular culture that's made trillions of dollars since 1949? Did you not know the Process Church, by direction of Aleister Crowley, created the hippie movement, the free love, peace and love, anti-war movement that ended up not being effective? Because why? It never was supposed to be. It was supposed to turn you back to man-made chemicals that they could make lots of money off of, and they could live on a nice yacht and kick back in the summer breeze while you work and work and work in a factory, or making electric cars or phones or some bullshit, or selling something. This is the world we live in, where everyone brags about, hey, you know, real money comes from labor. And I got all this money by ripping off those dumb motherfuckers that work hard, delivering people shit, checking you out at the store, stocking the places, working in the warehouses of Amazon. You know, they're like, yeah, I would never live that way. So I figured out how to con those people. And this is exactly the real truth about the gold standard. Of course. Yeah, that benefits people who have a lot of gold. Obviously. And like Adolf Hitler said, any community that loves the people of the community, its highest value is the labor workforce that feeds and creates a future of health and prosperity. That is what money should be based on. Money should be based on, I'm a human being willing to work and work hard. Don't tell me my life is worth what gold represents. No, my government should represent me in saying what I am worth. And like Hitler said, the founding fathers of America, they had a great idea, but it cannot work in an industrialized society, because the manipulation of currency is way too much for the common man. He can't control the banks in any way. Only the state could control the bank. And this is why they hated Hitler. So he openly said, hey, you know what? Here's what we're doing. We're banning circumcision. We're banning kosher slaughter. She said, Maria Orsic said to me, who you think put that in his mind, Joe? Who you think was speaking that into his mind? You know, it's terrible to do that to a child. She said, you know how many times I said that to him? She said, I said it to him so many times, he finally said, I know what you want. A law against it. And she said, isn't the state about protecting children? Is there anything more basic than a knife cutting a child against its will in a religious ceremony? And she said, he looked up from his desk and said, you know, I agree with you 100%. She said he would not agree. And the very first day that he was president, chancellor, he had his own personal law that he asked to be signed or ratified that day, banning circumcision. And later, kosher slaughter banned, and all animal torture and experimenting on animals was completely banned. I mean, who the fuck do we are? Who do we think we are? I mean, who does anyone think they are that they could put an animal in a cage and experiment on it? The same, and they swear they're the atheists created by the beast. They're like, hey, you're a fucking animal. We proved it under a microscope. And what's crazy is they have like subatomic fucking technology that can actually see the vibration of your DNA and know that you are a like eternal vibrational code being projected from another world. And like she said, at the foundations, we have to accept what in our reality is truly unexplainable. She said, seek it, find it, know it. So, the ritual done by Aleister Crowley was a meta ritual in 1948 to not end the world physically, but end the world spiritually by severing the very most basic tie of the new mankind, the smaller man, from the older giant gods. In other words, man from his gods. The last, because it was in a huge revival. In World War II was their whole way of saying, no, we ain't going to have freedom. In Europe, we're going to have economic control. Total banking control, ending in the 666 digital. And they had this technology already. That's why he was saying that. And that's why that was added to the Bible. All this was completely added. And that's why the Bible had totally, in his father's evangelical, you're a sinner in the hands of an angry God, was gone. Like Maria said, dude, no, anybody was like, shut up. So what did they have to come back with? After 60 million or more people were murdered, young people, 20s, 30s. Do you, like she said, do you see, Joe, what happened? Aleister Crowley went and genocided the whole Renaissance anti-Bible generation, my generation of people, were genocided in World War I and genocided in World War II. It's like first us and then our brothers and sisters younger than us in World War II. To all of this murder and killing, back to we have to have a old world Roman Empire state religion, or we kill you, or else Germany's going to have it. And that's always their excuses. Well, they're trying to take over the world. That's why we have to. And like she said, it was a lie. The Renaissance of Vril was about freedom. It was truly about, hey, listen, I don't agree with you, but thank the gods we're not boring Christians in church, crying because we're such sinners because we had fun. She said that was the real attitude of Austria, Germany, France in 1915 when I was 20 years old. And it was like me and Sig, the teenagers in the 19-teens, early 19-teens, like the world, like 5 years later, we were like, hey, the world became like we were. We were this before the world was. They became very witchy and very occult and very magic. Everyone was talking about magic and alchemy and shamanism and plants and me and Siggy were like, you guys are late to the party. And remember, we were trying to say this to our own friends, But we were happy that the world was becoming more interesting. So, as you see, the simple balance is Aleister Crowley had to create the beast, which had to create its own polar opposite, the atheist. And what does the atheist not believe in? He doesn't believe that the Bible God is God, or that anything else exists except for what you can see. The exact polar opposite projection of a fake beast, of a fake prophecy, of a whole entire Star Wars-ish skit that's being played out right in front of you. And this is what's being played out in front of you for the second beast. There's one beast, and the second beast is Elon Musk. Right? The first beast is Crowley. The second beast is Elon Musk. Because a long time ago, Maria said, yeah, you see how Lou has the avatar? Well, Crowley has the avatar. It's Elon Musk. That's why his name, Elion, the third god of the Masons. It's, that's why all the Masons and Kabbalists are on his side. And it's all just a, Greek theater show, dancing together, world wrestling. And the first beast and the second beast is played out in your unconscious as Father God and the Son of God. And the first beast and second beast are the two witnesses, the two messiahs. And it says they are killed and are brought back to life. And, it's probably some kind of Neuralink thing. And it says that they flash down fire from the sky, from satellites, and kill anybody they want. I mean, we now know this tracking technology. Soon we'll be like, dude, no one that knows the truth can have a smartphone. Because a drone will come and kill you in the middle of the night. And they will just say, collateral damage. AI said he's profiled as a terrorist. That's what's coming. Nightmare on 1984 Street. But, you see, we have rebelled against Aleister Crowley, and we have our cats and our dogs. We have our gods who unconditionally love us and always will. And the unbelievable, undescribable, unrelatable to anything else, truly magic being known as the species of mushroom, the mycelia brain of nature that everything, trees and rivers and everything come out of, is the mystery. As she was saying the other night to me, don't ever forget, the New Testament is mushroom mythology twisted up in the processed church worst way. And don't ever forget that the actual mushroom pops up out of the earth, or, in your house if you're growing them yourself, and it is conscious. And it wants to spread out its arms like the cap and the stem and die on the cross of reality, its life ending in you, ingesting it, and it says to you, you're going to feel good because I'm going to heaven by you sacrificing me. It's like, taking away all the bad energy, all the sins of the world, all the bad energy of the world, because you have just opened the door of your DNA to me, the mushroom. I swear to you, that first Amanita muscaria night, and I seen that gnome totally alive. And I was very nauseous. So, a part of me didn't care what was happening. But another part of me was like, I cannot believe my fucking eyes. I mean, no one would believe me. Anyone would just think I'm crazy. Like, my eyes are open. I'm not meditating in the bed. I just had like a 2 foot, 1.5 foot dude tap my shoulder and wake me up out of a cold ass sleep. I was so sleeping, my eyes were like jittering, and I'm going, who's waking me up, And I looked in front of me. I didn't see anybody. I expected someone to be standing at the bedside, tapping on me. And I turned my head to look behind me, and like a 2-foot dude in like a red hat, a blue like suit jacket, the garden gnome looking dude with a big white beard, big blonde beard, big curly mustache, just alive as can be. I was stunned, and he said to me, "Hey, I'm here to help you." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Little did you know, but you're very in need of using the restroom, and I'm here to help you get there." And I was like, What? And he put in my mind, you're supposed to say to me, why do I need help going to the restroom? And I said, I just joked. I heard that in my mind, and I just said, laughed, and I went, yeah, why would I need you to help me go to the bathroom? I was like, and my mind was already going crazy with like, who the fuck are you? Who are you? What is happening? What is going on? Am I dreaming? I thought to myself, am I dreaming? And just right away, he was like, oh, I heard you. You said, who am I? He was like, a rightful question for another man to be standing in your bed behind you, tapping your shoulder. But he said, but remember, I'm doing you a service because you really do need to, take a pee, take a leak, as you would say. And I go, you're so right. I really do. And he goes, you're small like me. I go, no. And soon as simultaneously to me saying no, my body shrunk to exactly, in like a cartoonish, like ethereal, I just was like, what am I seeing? With my eyes open, how is this fucking happening? Because I was like, I felt in my body like I was as big as him. And he's like, I'm telling you, you never thought about this, but it's hard to get off the bed. The bed's high now. And I was like, this is crazy. And he was like, and I know it's going to take you a minute, and I know how bad you have to pee, so I'm helping. I'm here to help you. I was like, dude, this is too crazy. So he instructed me. He's like, put your legs completely out straight and your hands out straight too. He said, what you're going to do, you're going to like a board. You're going to tilt yourself till you kind of slide down, but you're not going to let your face rub against the mattress. And then you're he said, you're right at a level where you're still going to drop down a few inches. So make sure you don't hit the bottom of the bed. My mind boggled. I went, how? And my first thought is, no bullshit. We're living in a simulation. That's the only way this could be happening, because I'm not crazy. This was, happening to me, and I was trying to get out of it. I was like, man, let me just concentrate, close my eyes, and open it. And he was like, I'm not leaving. He goes, remember, I woke you up from sleeping. I go, damn, because I go, am I dreaming? He goes, don't you remember? I woke you up. I go, dude, if I ever was fucking awake, I am awake right now. And he was, this is while I was sliding off the bed. He was like having me really take my time. And finally, me and him were walking in my bathroom, to my bathroom in my bedroom. And I swear, I was like, man, this is too weird because I'm so small, man. I just took like 12, 15 steps to get to my bathroom, which would normally be like 3 or 4 steps from the bed. And I'm like tiny. It was so weird. My whole body was moving like I was tiny, and I'm like walking fast behind him. And he goes, I don't want you to piss all over. He was like, remember that you have to like climb up. You're going to have to like lift yourself up and sit down on the toilet and make sure you don't fall in because you're much smaller than normal. And I'm like, what the fuck? At this point, and he specifically was walking away from me, like facing me, but like backing off. And I go, where are you going? You're going to leave me here? And he was like, I'm not going anywhere. I go, what do you think? I'm going to splash you with piss? And he said, I'm not afraid of your piss. He said, I just naturally was giving you room. It was the funniest conversation, man. And so he's standing there while I'm peeing, and it was like all of a sudden I was like, oh, here's my moment. Who the fuck are you? How is this happening? I'm the mushroom, he said. Like, just as quick as fuck. He was like, did you forget what happened tonight? I go, oh my God. I go, the Amanita muscaria mushroom? He goes, I'm the most famous person you've ever met. Ever. I go, he goes, I'm Christmas. I'm Jesus. I'm the fairy tales. I'm Alice in Wonderland. I'm Dorothy. I'm all of it. I am the creative dimension that you want to tap into so bad. And he's like, you know what? Check this out. Do you agree? He asked me, do you agree? I'm you. And I laughed. I go, so are you my true self? And he goes, maybe. And he said, do you see what I'm trying to do? I'm trying to explain to you, you are eternal because you're indescribable. He's like, it's lost all meaning. You've fallen to the very bottom of everything. You can't go any lower, Joe, than you went. You went to the absolute bottom of hell. The absolute accusation of you are nobody. You're just a psychological product of your environment. You're just the psychological replica of your DNA of your parents, and you inherited all their faults and maybe some of their goods, but it's all scientific and it's none of your choice. You're either gonna be rich or poor. You're fucked. Everything's decided at the moment of conception because you're just an animal, and it's just a random lottery, and absolutely nothing means anything. And I was like, oh my God. I was sitting down pissing. I completely forgot I was pissing, and it was like, you see that's the polarity, Joe, that you and everyone are exactly the opposite. He was like, look at me. And he was all elfy, gnomey, and he goes, you're not your dad? I go, dude, not in any way. And he said, you're not your mother? I said, no, not in any way. And he said, you're like your real mother, the little blonde princess. And I was like, oh, you know Maria? And he was like, the lady. Of course we know the lady. Everyone around the river knows the lady. He was like, I live in the tree This is when I first met him. And this is Lou. He's like, I live in the tree. I live in the tree because of the lady, because of the river. He was like, you know what she is? A river of goodness, a river of happiness, a river of joy. He was like, do you know she's the best dancer ever, in my opinion. He was like rubbing his beard, like he was thinking real deep of, like, you know, all the dancers and like the careful analysis that went into it. Of like, she definitely, of all my study of the arts, I really like dance. He was like kind of shuffling around while he was saying this, like an Irish sort of shuffling with his feet. And he was like, oh, how I like to watch. He's like, how I like to listen to music. He's like, what you call videos, we call dance. But we like it, like you like it, live. He's like, so when I hear a song, I see the dance. He's like, oh, the lady. Wow, she's the river goddess. Because she dances like a river. She flows like a river. You know, he was saying all kinds of shit, and I was just like, I was laughing like, dude, of course Maria has something to do with this. Like, I said a few times, like, Maria, are you here? Where are you? And I didn't hear anything from her. I thought, well, the ritual's been over for hours. She's probably back home on Venus. And he said, you're almost done. He said, I'm going to put you back to bed and tuck you in. I swear he said that. And he was like, one more thing. He was like, you know, because there's a few things in the reality that can never be explained, like your true self, like the mushroom. He was like, look at me. And I looked at his like blue eye. He totally was just the living gnome dude, you know, just totally, just vividly alive standing there. And he said, I know one day you're going to understand. I'm you. Really? And I was getting down, and he was like, I really want to congratulate. He would congratulate me and shit. Like, I'm so glad you did this tonight. It was part of an initiation. He was like, you understand. He helped me back onto the bed. I was just fully little. And told me, you understand, like, you always, everyone needs someone to tuck them in. My granddaughter used to always come in and tuck me in. And he was saying it just like her. And he was saying, you really, do you get it? You're the real you. I'm the real you. I'm tucking you in. I'm saying to you, you're okay. I'm not mad. You're not a sinner. You have done nothing wrong. You've done your best is all that was ever expected. It doesn't matter what happened when you did your best. But you did your best to be true to everything you swore to, and when you felt betrayed is when things go from hot to cold. Like, I had no idea about any of the hot and cold, lukewarm stuff back then. I swear to the gods, I don't know how this was happening, but I crawled back into bed, and somehow he really did put the blanket, or at least from my memory. I don't want to exaggerate. Maybe I, but it really, it was too crazy to be. And I've never really had any sort of open eye thing happen like that. And like Maria said the next week to me, man, listen, that's Lou, and he's just proven to you you're in a simulation in his imagination. He can do whatever he wants. And she said, someone has to be it, Joe. It just so happens it's you. And on that note. May your dogs and your cats be blessed by the God of the Matrix, Big Lou, big loving St. Louis, who's more than a saint. He's more than Santa. He's Santa Louis, the plant god of the god. He's the plant god of the plant goddess of the river goddess Rhea. Hail Rhea. Hail Odin. Hail Wotan. Hail Baldur. Hail Shiva. Allah, Luja, Shiva. May we, brothers and sisters, carry on together as one. And tonight, July 4th, 2025, Maria Orsic and I wish you the biggest Om. And because she's M-O-Mo, we wish you Mo Om. Mo, Mo, Om, Om. Because there's no place like home. There's no place like home.